Welcome to Kessel Fun, the official podcast of the Star Wars speculation subreddit. I'm your host, Fuel the Fire. I'm here with the other hosts this week, Johanna and Todd.
Hi.
Hello.
We are with a short crew here, but hopefully bringing you just as good of podcast here. We've got some good news coming up. Of course, we have Han Solo releasing this week, and some comic books as well. So I was hoping, Todd, if you wanted to bring us up to speed on what released this week.
So last week we had the Last Jedi adaptation number 2, Star Wars number 48, the Star Wars Annual number 4, and Dr. Aphra number 20. Coming up this week we have the solo tie-in Lando Double or Nothing miniseries, issue number 1. So anything from these comics that you guys found interesting or want to go over quickly?
I don't know if you guys caught the Star Wars 48 or the annual. We were flipping through them here, and man, there's some gold in here for sure. I think we had in the issue 48 of the Star Wars series that actually started in 2015. It's starting to get a little weird. You get some really 80s out panels in this one. 3PO in a mohawk. Anybody? I'm not sure, what there was story-wise there, but you get to see some pretty interesting panels with the Mon Calamari though, and I'm not certain what their restrictions are on their art styles, but some of these faces, man, if you have a chance, check it out. On the annual 4, there were a couple of really cool panels in there. If you check that one out, we had some cross-guard lightsabers. Luke and Vader each get a hold of one, and you kind of see what they have to do sort of dealing with them. But in the course of this, we get some really interesting callbacks. Luke in a pod racer, with the announcers saying that they've never seen a human driving a pod racer, and they've never, there's never been any human that's won a big circuit in pod racing, and Vader's sitting there listening to this stuff, and it's really funny. He actually brings Luke down, and they both end up destroying the sabers, but it's really interesting just to go through the comic. It looks like the cross guard lightsabers that they come across, being red, of course, dark side, I guess they're not blue or green or anything, they're red sabers, but they're like imbued with some dark side energy or something like that. Luke ends up destroying his, Vader destroys his as well, but Luke is sort of like, he doesn't want to let it take power over him. Anyways, the comics are really, really, there's something else. I hadn't clicked through them till here recently, and I'm sad I didn't, just because they're so interesting. So if you have a chance, definitely check them out. Other news, we also had the Solo movie come out. Amazing, May 25th. I've already gotten a chance to see it twice here, and I don't want to fanboy out, and maybe we're seeing stuff through our Star Wars goggles now, but man, I really enjoyed it. I think it was lighter. It had room to breathe away from the saga. We had Solo release. Amazing stuff. Hopefully you caught it. We had some other news here with Boba Fett movie announced, at least by the Hollywood reported as such. Not officially confirmed through Lucasfilm yet, but looks like we may have a Boba Fett movie in the works with James Mangold to direct, the director of Logan, if you're not familiar. So, didn't write it per se, but I think if you got a chance to see Logan, it was pretty sad there at the end, touching. So, if they were able to make Wolverine, a relatable character, then maybe we'll see something for Boba Fett. I don't know what that means. Maybe he brings some of the action to it or something. But we also had a potential Obi-Wan movie, again by the Hollywood Reporter, so not confirmed officially yet, but announced with Stephen Daldry to direct, and looks like he does more
Artsy?
Yeah, like artsy style. I'm not sure. Drama pieces.
Yeah.
So it should be interesting to see what he ends up doing with Obi-Wan. But plus we also had a couple other movies mentioned. Possibly they mentioned a slew of other movies on the slate, including a Lando movie possibly. I know I saw Donald Glover talking about what he would like to make, and I know he's got a couple shows out there that are pretty successful. So there's definitely stuff in the works, more to come. But I know it feels like, I don't know how you guys are feeling now, but maybe we're getting to one of those points where it feels like, oh man, we got so much, and next movie's a year and a half away, and we're not going to get a lot of stuff. But there's a lot of news going to be coming up soon. I feel like we have the Resistance show.
Oh, when is the Resistance show coming again? Remind me.
If I'm not mistaken, that's supposed to be in the fall, sometime around September.
Yeah.
Todd, does that sound right?
Yay.
For the Resistance show.
Resistance should be sometime this fall, September, November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Man, I can't wait for that. That's gonna be amazing. Oh, definitely.
but yeah, no. So there should be plenty of stuff coming up here, and but yeah, just a really exciting time here with this movie releasing, Solo in particular. But it looks like they dumped some other news here as well. So hopefully we get some good stuff coming up. They also released a Star Wars show, a new episode of the Star Wars show. So if you're interested at all, of course, you can find that on the Star Wars website, and interviews with the cast and crew, or most of the cast and director, right? Ron Howard and the main players do an interview there. So interesting stuff if you're at all interested. But moving on to the main speculation section here, because again, guys, keeping it tight. We're on running a tight crew, and we're gonna keep it casual this week, in the spirit of the Han Solo movie. So with that said, I wanted to first things first, jump into how you guys are feeling about the movie. How'd you guys feel? Good, bad?
I'm still like on a high from it. I loved it so much. It was just a big feast for me. I don't know. What about you, Todd?
I really liked the movie. There were parts I wanted more of, things I wanted to see, but overall it was really fun and I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I think it was nice to finally have something that didn't have all the weight of the main trilogy.
Yeah,
You
just
know,
it felt different. It felt, like Todd said, fun, and the music was amazing.
Music in this one I feel was stronger, at least
Money.
than The Last Jedi.
Oh,
So
really? Yeah.
there were a couple of things, scenes where it really stood out. I was
Mhm.
even just that angry angels theme that we got during the Emphas Nest reveal.
Angry Angels.
Like
I love that.
that, na, 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 like that thing, man, it just stuck.
Yeah.
Like it was just really powerful tunes,
Yeah, they
So
nailed it.
I'm hoping we'll see, that those characters again. They're little sequences, man, that just in the music that are amazing in the film. But that said, what were your guys' favorite scenes? Was there anything that really stood out to you guys that you really liked?
Well, I mean, for me, I loved all of Enfys Nest. I just loved it. Like you said, it was the music, but sorry.
scenes I really like were the character interactions in the movie with Han and Chewie and Han and Lando and just stuff like that and moments. Definitely a highlight
Yeah,
for me.
yeah, I think they really nailed some of the relationships that
Hmm.
we're, supposed to. The first thing I did when I finished the movie was ran home and threw on Empire Strikes Back to rewatch the scene where we first see Lando and Han. I mean, I don't know if it's
Oh,
perfect that way, but it really felt like it could have picked up like right afterwards,
that's
just the way they,
interesting.
they captured their relationship.
Well,
Um,
I mean, my favorite part was the droids. They were just super cute, and I loved L3, how they introduced her, and how she was like this, I don't know, equal rights activist. It was
yeah,
great. I mean, yeah. And of course, the
it
Millennium
was.
Falcon thing, but
Yeah, I mean, it introduced some concepts we haven't had in a while, right, in the Star Wars universe, just like the droids, sort of helpless
yeah.
characters in this galactic struggle, and they're having to deal with their own sentience and stuff like that while people are fighting around them, and they're just kind of pawns in all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is definitely awesome. Interesting concepts that we hadn't really gotten in any of the films yet.
I
So
know, but important, right? Because it's like
yeah,
slavery and, liberation, and then also of course, the droids who are treated like, garbage.
yeah, the rebellion. And we could get deep into it, but
Hmm.
just even the idea of like, everybody else sees them as droids, but Lando is allowing his robot in a sense to
Yeah.
sort of develop its own autonomy,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, I know,
all of
for
that.
sure.
So it's there's a lot in there, and it's awesome because they don't really dig into it. They leave it there for for you to dig into. Obviously, obviously,
it's
it's a little.
fun,
You
yeah.
have your overtones like, oh, what do you want? Equal rights. Obviously, it's kind of slaps you in the face there, but on the same note, the idea, at least even touched in sort of a cartoon or kids universe, you know what I mean, like cartoonish way
Yeah.
is awesome.
It was easy to
Uh,
understand, I think, which was great,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I think kids can wrap their head around
yeah,
that,
for
and
sure.
that's part of the audience as well. So, um,
And then
great stuff.
the dynamic between Lando, to get back to what you were saying, he's just such a cool cat. I mean, I love that guy. Lando, his
Yeah,
character, and very, human, and Han too. So it was nice.
yeah. I mean,
Regular
La-
guys.
yeah. Lando gives us a chance to see some guys that or somebody that's not really at all enmeshed in the whole light side, dark side. He's really very much out for himself.
Yeah.
Living the smuggler's life, sort of getting by, but at the same time having fun. Evidently, he's enjoying what he does. So, um, it was really cool, man. The Wookiees, there was a lot of cool stuff with
Oh
Han. I mean,
man.
we got to see Han and meet Chewbacca. There's a lot that happened in this movie. I know it may have felt a little jam-packed, like you said, Todd. It would have been nice to have seen more of some of this stuff. I
Yeah.
don't know if
Todd
maybe
speak.
two films.
We can go on and on, Fuel and I, but God.
I don't know if two films is might have been the right direction or to go, or a couple, but I would have liked to have seen more of Han in the academy, perhaps, like when he got kicked out of flight
Hmm.
school.
Oh,
Um,
just more of the
because
trenches, or what do you
well,
mean?
no, like because he's they go into how he's a good pilot, and
Mm.
we do see him flying a speeder around Corellia, but we don't get to see him piloting any ships prior to starting to pilot the Falcon, really, besides the train escape.
Yeah, the one that Beckett
So
was wanting to.
yeah, so we were very much trusting him for his word. Up and we know who Han is, but
It was over understood. I mean, yeah. Maybe because we saw him so much flying the Falcon in like 6 films, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I think you're right.
a lot of great little scenes. Even again going back to the Wookiees there. I could go on about this film, but
Me too. I know.
but even
That
the scene with Han meeting Chewbacca the first time, I thought it was a great little moment with Han.
I know he did so well. He totally nailed the Wookiee sound. It was awesome. That took me by surprise. Yeah, I think I choked on my popcorn or something at that.
And Han and Chewie meet in this film, and a lot of little origin pieces, how Han gets his name and stuff. But I think they were all, even if sort of shoehorned in, were handled well.
I
Um,
suppose we have Ron Howard to thank for that, you think? Or
I would
I
say
just loved it.
probably for like the old school sensibilities maybe. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't know, in detail, but there were a couple of things that felt signed, that felt sort of like paint by numbers westernish,
Mm-hmm.
like the old trope of the guy who double crosses the whole gang sort of at the end of the heist or whatever,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So
Oh,
you
it was
knew it was
awesome,
coming,
People are
but yeah.
predictable. I
Yeah, you
loved
knew it
it.
was coming. It felt classic in that you knew what was coming and you watched it play out, but they didn't mess it up. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? I don't know if that's maybe taking it too easy on them, but I think it was they handled it very well.
It was
But
easy on the eyes, easy to watch, easy to listen to, you know. Sometimes we need a Star Wars film like that, I think.
Right. They let us nerd out a lot in this one too. There were some really deep cut references in this film. Terrace Kasi, um, the Ara Singh, references to Bosk. But I love the Terrace Kasi one. I don't know if anybody remembers the old video game at all. There's this old game called Masters of Terrascasi that was on the PS1, if I recall, PS2 maybe. You could play as all the characters, and it's like martial arts in Star Wars. God, just nerding out, I guess.
Terrakasi, okay.
References there, and then I mean, I don't know how much your casual fan keeps up with the cartoons, but we got a really big cameo at the end of the film when Maul showed up as basically the boss of the bad guy of the film. So Todd, I know not everybody maybe caught up to where we're at with Maul, but I don't know if you want to go over kind of where he got to where he is.
After his apparent death in The Phantom Menace, Darth Maul was revealed to be alive in Season 4 of Star Wars The Clone Wars in 2012. He became a villain for the series in Seasons 4 and 5, and if you haven't, I'd highly recommend watching those, as they're one of the best episodes of the show. After his appearance in Clone Wars, we have a comic book with and Rebels. So if you want to catch up on him and know everything about that, it's where you can go.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see, for them to drop this character sort of in this place in the story. Um, I don't know. I saw a couple people on Reddit speculating right on the sub, but saying, maybe this is part of a connected universe that they're starting to build now that Disney's sort of got a hold of the IP. Um, maybe we start seeing Maul and Crimson Dawn showing up in some of the other standalone films. Um, but I think it's pretty cool, pretty interesting. We got Ray Park back, which is awesome, and we got Sam. What is it, Sam Witwer? Is that so?
Well, no, I just think that the important thing was just to make sure that, people knew that he didn't officially die, right? Or
Yeah, he did not die,
no,
folks. He's
seriously, because
still
I think
alive.
no, some people think that he died because he was split in half.
Yeah,
I did.
yeah, right.
So,
There,
so,
yeah. I
so
mean,
the thing is, like, he didn't die, so it's not a matter of like, dying and then being brought back to life. I think that's
right.
key
Right, he's
with Darth
not a
Maul.
zombie.
Right?
He
He's not a
is he's
zombie.
still
He's not.
still alive.
He's not like
I
some
think
possessed corpse or something, or maybe, but
yeah.
I don't think so. I think it's
And
Darth Maul.
people tend to complain about it, but I kind of look at it like this, like if you're looking for a parallel, take a look at Anakin. He got two legs chopped off, an arm, and he was set on fire, and he
Yeah,
was in
no, it's
pretty
a
bad shape.
disembodiment,
But
basically.
he was
Sure.
able to live, I imagine, for similar reasons, anger and such. So Maul was cut in half, fell down a shaft, and was so angry he stayed alive.
So you're saying he was kept alive by his rage?
Yes, he is a
Well, that's
rage
interesting.
beast.
I don't
But
know.
by the end of his arc, I mean, I don't want to spoil it for you if you want to get into where he ends up at the end of his arc. But he's not in the same place, by the time he rejoins the Force, as it were. So definitely go and check that out if you want to get caught up to speed. Um, but with that, just general reactions. I think the movie itself is kind of leading us. It was. I feel like okay, cool. Now we can bring on some more standalones. It was in a perilous place, I think, for movies, having gone through multiple directors and you know what enough of what we heard behind the scenes. I think it did what it needed to do, and
Yeah, I agree.
I'd like to see these characters in some other films.
Me too. Yeah, I mean, what I loved about the movie was that they kind of like highlighted a lot of, not more, but a lot of the Millennium Falcon It's like my all-time favorite thing to talk about in Star Wars, you know,
Yeah.
all the time. It's obviously, it's not just a ship, it's, the quintessential mothership, of all films. And I've always found her to be so mysterious and full of secrets. So was really psyched about, Solo going into how Han came with her, or was introduced to her, and why, So anyway, to preface what I'm about to say is, like, in one of the latest episodes of the Star Wars show, we had Mr. Hidalgo take us on a mini tour behind the scenes of one of the sets for the Falcon, and that was really, really cool. I thought just two things about that. When he's describing the Falcon, he says the word sanctuary, which I think is pretty I don't know, it's like a clue.
I mean, yeah, if you think about it, a lot of the movies take place on the ship, like like
Yes.
straight up. Like a lot of the movies they're on the Millennium
I
Falcon
know,
for
right?
the scenes.
It's like the meeting
Yeah.
place, and
Yeah.
it's pretty neat. But another thing he says is he starts talking about, and this is something I didn't even know, or I didn't even think about, but there's this like hidden closet inside the ship, and it curiously, doesn't appear on any of her blueprints. So it's like a secret place. So I'm calling it the Phantom Closet from now on. But
It's secret even in Star
it's
Wars. Crazy.
magic. No.
It doesn't even make the blueprints.
Right, exactly. I mean, I don't even know if this was like on purpose that he said it, or it was an accident, but I'm assuming it's on purpose. Mr. Hidalgo doesn't just give away clues for no reason.
Yeah.
So anyway, the funny thing is pretty monumental things have happened inside this place. It's where Han and Leia, had their first kiss in front of us. And in TFA, or The Force Awakens, Han pulls out that blaster for Finn.
Oh, that's in that little room.
Yeah, it's from this little closet that just sort of comes up with stuff. I don't know. It might be nothing.
It's the go-go gadget closet.
Exactly. No, that's good.
Yeah.
And I just think it's super cool how the Falcon always seems to provide our heroes with what they need for their quest.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it's got a rebellious spirit. If you guys saw
Yes.
Han Solo again, not without any, not to spoil, right, but we got L3 becoming part of the ship, and
Right.
call back to Empire Strikes Back. I'm sure it's got to be a direct reference, right? But C3PO mentions, your ship speaks in a peculiar dialect. And Todd, I think you had found some really neat detail about the Falcon's systems.
It's in an excerpt from the Last Jedi novel, actually. We have R2D2 talking about the Falcon. And he remarks that the Falcon has always had 3 brains inside of it, quarreling and forced to work together.
That's right.
None of them could stand
Yeah.
C-3PO, and one of the brains had a fondness for both romantic gossip and dirty jokes.
Oh, awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so cool.
I love that. Yeah.
So you have 3 AI brains on the Falcon sort of fighting against each other, or just telling each other dirty jokes. Like, it's really cool.
Awesome, It's like individual personalities, which is really
Yeah.
cool.
And of course, none of them get along with 3PO, as everyone is wont to do. Who gets along with 3PO? Like, who does?
Padme, no? She
Yeah, he was with her all the time.
she seemed to tolerate him.
She tolerated him. Who gets happy when C-3PO walks in the room?
R2,
I like
R2 does. No, I know he does. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I love them. In that detail too, they mentioned that the AI do seem to get along with R2, which is kind of funny because R2 famously has a foul mouth himself. So, but yeah, that kind of goes back to the whole droid thing. It was just from Han Solo. It was nice, or interesting, I guess, just to think that this droid is there with this rebellious spirit, and and then that spirit is sort of put into the Millennium Falcon,
Yeah,
and
but this is
they're
this is like a new
obviously
thing, isn't it? I mean, we knew that the Falcon was sort of a character, in Star Wars, really, like her own
yeah.
character. But this is kind of like hammering it in. No, I mean, just
Right,
you
right.
know,
Well, I
the
mean, yeah, L3 is definitely part
yeah,
of it now, and the ship is, yeah,
and L
L3
three.
or
I mean, what was L3 about, really?
yeah.
Liberating the slaves, or I don't know. I mean, that's kind of really important. I think this was a very important theme about the movie. I'm very grateful that they put it in there. You know,
Yeah.
because
No, I mean,
I think that's what it's all leading to. Actually, with,
yeah, and and even just getting to nerd out on it a little bit, the Millennium Falcon was always known for being the fastest ship in the galaxy, right?
hmm
But it wasn't because it was the fastest ship. That wasn't necessarily the idea. It was because it had the best nav computer. And Lando said that as much. When you're going for speed, jumping from galaxy, then you're gonna, if you can do it in the shortest path, that's gonna be the quickest when you're going top speed. So the Falcon is the fastest because of its computers. So just letting you nerd out a little
yeah,
bit. I mean, I
no,
love it.
it's a good
It's in
point.
there. We get some little details like that. And oh man, I mean that just draws me back to that sequence. And again, the Han Solo movie was amazing, folks. It sounds silly, but definitely go see it. The the Kessel Run was incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
unbelievable because I think everyone wanted to know what it looked like. Or
hmm.
did you guys already know what it looked like? I didn't.
No,
you know that
that didn't look like what I imagined in
It
my
didn't look like
head.
what I imagined it either.
Yeah,
I was picturing,
uh,
the inside of an asteroid, I
it was a lot
guess,
scarier
or
than I thought it would be.
yeah, like, and it was a storm. It was a stormy
Like
place,
pitch black
which is
space with
interesting, I
storms. Like
think.
what?
It was just very, yeah, I
Yeah, it was
creative,
wild.
very
Yeah,
wild.
with
Um,
the giant carbonite bodies that are like the size of planets crashing into each other, and the Falcon's got to shoot out
yeah, it
through
was
the
just
little
like it
hole, and
was what you picture just pure chaos to be,
yeah,
like the unknown, but like in a really scary
yeah,
form.
very neat. The unknown space kind of stuff,
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah, no, definitely. Um, I want Fuel. I wanted to ask you about that that move that they did with the escape pod.
Uh
Or
huh.
I guess we can cut this out. I don't know. Like, do you think that's relevant? Or
What do you mean?
well, because in TLJ, Ray sort of goes in an escape pod to see Kylo Ren. Uh,
Oh,
remember
hmm.
when they used it as like a means for escape or as a last ditch resort sort of weapon? But like, what was that about? Like, did it mean something or
I don't
I
know.
have no
I
idea.
think I didn't. I don't know necessarily. There were. I mean, again, maybe if we go back to maybe little gripes for the film, it on the same token of where the relationships and stuff were where they needed to be for the original trilogy.
hmm
I felt like the ship, it was kind of like, all right, we're gonna beat it up for you just so it looks like it's in a New Hope condition, by the end of the film. So I hope there was some purpose behind it, but it kind of also felt like they were just stripping it down just to get it to Han status by the end of the movie.
But what does that mean exactly? Because they just went through the Kessel Run, which I guess was like the mall or something. So
Hmm.
so basically they went to hell and back. No,
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, when you go through something like that, you're transformed. You have scars, you're damaged, but you can still be the fastest ship in the galaxy if you have a good you know pilot. Plus, everyone always judges her by the like, don't ever judge a book by its cover. She looks unremarkable, from the outside, old and worn out.
Right.
But
Right.
I don't know. Maybe that's the message, or maybe you're right. Maybe they just wanted to get it like like scruffy looking,
Pick his
like
ship
Han
up.
Solo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So yeah. No, the ship itself, I think, is it's, I love that basically we got to see some of the origins for it in any case, even gripes aside, getting to see some more about the ship's history, and
Anything, yeah.
even Han Solo mentions his dad used to fly one of those.
What? Oh my god, I
Yeah,
missed. He did
there's the
not.
yeah, when he comes in and he meets Lando, he goes, Carillion.
Oh,
Lando's like, you know your stuff, and he says, yeah, my
man.
dad used to pilot one of these.
I'm. Am,
Built them, right?
Oh, build him, yeah,
Yeah,
right,
on
sorry.
Corellia, the
He wanted to be a pilot, and he couldn't go or something
oh,
like
very
that,
nice,
right?
guys. No, I missed that completely.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Very nice.
So I mean, it's and that kind of going back. I mean, again, we'll dig into. I guess I forgot to mention earlier. We'll be doing a separate video with more solo reactions with some of the other hosts where we really dig into the movie. Um, but the ship also offered some parallels, I think, to The Force Awakens in offering the characters sort of this vehicle to. You mean even Luke? It's sort of the vehicle that's the call to action for all these characters. You know
Oh,
what
I
I
like
mean?
that. Yeah, it
It offers
definitely
them
is.
their yeah, or whatever comes through this vessel.
Yeah, because when you think about it, Luke went into the Falcon, and then that's what finally made him decide to what train Rey in the Last Jedi, because he got that message from R2.
The fact that the characters sort of whenever they are called to do whatever, the ship is offering them these experiences, right? Um, they're sort of coming. If Star Wars were an RPG, then the Millennium Falcon would be showing up with the quest line. Let me put it that way.
Do you think that the Millennium Falcon communicates with R2? It does, doesn't it? I mean, we already established that, right?
Yeah, they definitely communicate. Really cool little details, and probably go into it forever, but the Millennium Falcon is becoming its or has become its own sort of character, and is a huge piece of the story, I feel like. So I could see Kylo Ren having a moment on it in episode 9 for sure. Um, After calling for it to be blown out of the sky and stuff in The Last Jedi.
All right, I have a random question. You know how
Yeah.
Rey she communicates really well with droids. Do you think it's a possibility that she kind of like senses what the Falcon wants to tell her, or is that too weird? Or is that not relevant to this conversation?
I don't know.
Because since the Falcon is like part droid now, or has always been, we don't know, right? Is there a language there?
Well, I don't know if she would necessarily get anything like a sense like that per se, but maybe the Falcon, with these AIs that are putting to it, it certainly has some sort of will. It would seem,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's kind of big, isn't it? It's huge.
I don't know. I mean, could possibly choose to mess up stuff and have some sort of volition,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in what it does or doesn't accomplish, I guess.
Remember when she fixed something and Han looked at her and said, "Huh," like he was surprised, and then she kind of was surprised also.
Right, as if
And then,
she
yeah,
understood
and then Finn's
immediately.
like, "Wow, have you ever flown this before?" And she's like, "No, I don't know what I did."
Yeah,
It was. I
yeah,
think. I mean, I love thinking like maybe the Falcon. I don't know. Maybe helped her, like L3 helped her or something. But I don't know if that's too
yeah.
much or a stretch.
Well, I mean, in any case, it offered some parallels to The Force Awakens, even just for the characters. Like Han went through this sort of thing on the ship, and it left his circumstances, and Rey is sort of in the same situation. It was really interesting. Just there's a lot of little details there. I don't know how much there is of a connection between some of the lines they had in Han Solo
Yeah,
and
and I guess
some of
that
the
would be
stuff
something we
that.
can talk about, with Sam and
Yeah, we'll
why
we'll
and the
probably
team.
dig more into that into the other video, but there were definitely some parallels to the other films that could be drawn. So,
Okay.
but that said, we'll move on here to our closing topic for the speculation segment of the podcast. Todd, we wanted to go over the post of the week. Do you want to go over that?
Yes. So this week's post of the week is titled "An Alternative to the Kiss of Life Theory" by the Bendu in the Middle on Reddit. So, this theory is that instead of a life kiss with Ray or Ben, the back to life, we have this theory, which is that Ray will sacrifice herself for Kylo or Ben sometime during the final fight against the First Order, and Ben will be able to use the Force to save her from death, which is what his grandfather Anakin was trying to do, and to finish what he started. Just an interesting theory for tying things together.
Yeah, I really like that post. I think, we have Disney taking over Star Wars, so it's kind of like, well, how are they gonna tie this bow together? Is it gonna be in usual Disney fashion,
Mm-hmm.
or are we gonna get, some subversion of that? I think in this they say, I mean, basically we have two sides, right? I think we all kind of see some sort of. I mean, again, I don't want to speak for anybody. There certainly is the camp of speculators, right, where Kylo is going to be redeemed, and definitely can see the other side where he's irredeemable at this point. Um, with that said, if we do end up going the fairy tale story route for this, right, Disney style, then we'd imagine some kind of redemption for the character in some way, shape, or form. So either we have Rey saved by Ben or Ben saved by Rey, and it's a toss up. I don't know what do you guys think? Disney story, fairy tale ending, or no?
No, definitely. Yes. Um, it depends on what you mean by Disney, though. I think Disney also has evolved, thank God, from the usual Prince Charming and Princess perfect ending. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, definitely some more adult I mean, we're in a different time,
Yeah.
It's different time.
I,
Todd, what are you feeling, man? Do you think episode 9 ends on a high note, or on a, because I mean, we even had it in Return of the Jedi. That movie sort of ended on, all right, your fairy tale ending. Everybody's sort of hugging and happy. And do you think we get something like that at the end of 9?
I think we probably will, although anything can happen at this point. So I'm feeling it will be a happy ending because I don't know if we can have the whole Skywalker story end in tragedy again. Probably be a little too
there's just been
depressing.
so much tragedy already, come
Yeah.
on. There has to be some sort of happy ending. And I'm not talking about just like a bittersweet type of happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be something glorious, I
Yeah.
think. I mean, not that no anyone deserves it like we deserve it or anything. It's just the story does. Um, and it's about hope. So it has to end on a hopeful note because it's for kids, Why would we want to go, all Game of Thrones on Star Wars or something, or
Yeah,
too maybe too sweet on Star Wars too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm in the camp that says, I don't think there is going to be sort of that final happily ever after sort of ending. I think even if you apply it to sort of the old Disney stories or cartoons, right? I wasn't ever sort of worried about what happened to the characters after their stories, because they always sort of ended on such a happy note. Now with Star Wars, when we had Return of the Jedi, we had the old EU books and stuff like that. And I think we will get more sort of forward media, like where the canon timeline
Mm-hmm.
keeps moving
Oh,
forwards.
for sure.
So I mean, maybe we get, a happy uh, sort of ending for our main characters here, but conflict sort of continues, or definitely needs to continue everywhere else. So, but as far as that applies to the Kiss of Life theory,
I don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting post. I'm glad somebody wrote that though. That was a good post.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. I
I
mean,
think it needs to be
dark.
addressed. Mm-hmm.
Dark side and the light side will evidently need to come to some sort of balance, and what that looks like is It's definitely going to be interesting.
Complicated, but simple, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think even just kind of looking back at the post, love being the thing that would bring light and dark together, um, having the line, I think one of our posters here mentions something about love can't save you, Padme. Someone mentions the love can't save you, Padme line from Revenge of the Sith, and how ironic or, how much more tragic that would be if they were to kind of that was the note that this one ended on was yes, in fact, love can be the saving factor. Although I don't know what that looks like. We haven't seen Force heal or anything like that. I don't know if that's the kind of direction or what kind of crazy powers. What does love do when it
Well,
comes to the Force?
what do you mean?
Well, I mean, like in terms of Kylo can care for Rey and Rey can care for Kylo, but how does that manifest in the story to take them forward?
Well, they just need to forgive one another, no?
Yeah, but them forgiving each other, what does that do to the galaxy? Like, are they still going to be? Would people agree with them?
Yeah, because I think they
Like,
would probably set the example. I don't know.
or would they be ostracized? Or you know what I mean?
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
so. A lot of people have suffered already and have lost everything already. So, uh,
I mean, I saw an interesting post again going back to whether or not Kylo gets a sort of redemption that was related to Darth Vader, and sort of the idea that although he did get a what would you say he was redeemed spiritually, but he wasn't redeemed sort of in the eyes of the galaxy. So, even to the main players like Luke saw this turn in this character, and he saw the atonement at least spiritually for what he did, and I like to imagine, yeah, Darth Vader would have atoned for his crimes after the end of Return of the Jedi when he was like, what? I am a bad guy. And he throws the Empire down the shaft. I think he would have turned himself into the law there. But kind of applying that to Kylo, it's like, does he get his spiritual redemption and sort of redemption in the eyes of the galaxy? Or is it just going to be, he goes Ronin and sure, Rey thinks it's cool, what he's done or what he's had to go through, and but no one else does, or how does that play out? So I don't know how fairy tale that goes, but yeah, I think there's definitely. I don't
I
think
mean,
it's going to be
well,
as
hope
fairy
hope is
tale
everything.
as Return of the Jedi.
Like okay, so yeah, hope is even greater than love. I think sometimes because love you really can't see most of the time, but hope you're kind of like you don't need any eyes or vision to see it. You just it's there somehow, right? Does that make sense?
But yeah, no, really good post here. Definitely something to speculate on. I think it was the second highest post for the week. So thank you for that, Bendu. Um, so moving on to the community section, just wanted to mention that we will have a book club video releasing here later on in the week where some of the podcast members go over some of the books that have been releasing. So I think they went over The Last Shot for the Han Solo film and have obviously, they have some good things to say about it. And I think Todd, you read that one, right? Yeah, good book. It ties into the movie, of course, and so good stuff there. Todd will be on that episode, and we also have, just as a reminder, that other video coming up with some more in-depth speculation on the Solo movie as well. If you'd like to submit questions and speculation suggestions, please go to Reddit Kessel Fun. Uh, Feel free to drop us a line there. There is also a Q&A submission thread there for the podcast team, as well as a speculation and topic submission thread. Keep an eye out for the Finding Camino thread on the Star Wars Speculation subreddit. And Todd, if you want to go over where the listeners can find us.
If you'd like to find us in a galaxy far, far away, aka the internet, you can find us on Reddit, our Kessel Fun, Twitter at Kessel Fun, YouTube Kessel Fun Podcast, SoundCloud Kessel Fun Podcast. We're also available on Pocket Cast and iTunes as Kessel Fun Podcast. See you around, kid.